Hello foodies, I am going to do another food experiment today and try to solve that age-old problem of how do you get awesome ribs as fast as possible. The tension is always between getting great ribs, which usually takes a lot of time, versus getting yummy food faster and not having to wait. The solution in the modern day to getting food fast is the InstaPot pressure cooker or things similar to it, pressure cooking. And the solution to longer, yummier stuff are things like sous vide and slow smoking and things like that. So I'm going to compare the two, and I'm going to do ribs sous vide and compare them with ribs done in a pressure cooker, and finish them both by smoking them and flame blasting them like I always do as a finish. And then we'll find out if the texture and the flavor is different between pressure cooker versus sous vide. And if that difference is negligible, that means a pressure cooker is going to be my new way of putting ribs together rapidly. Out here to start with is I've got my sous vide cooker going. These ribs have been cooking for 24 hours, and they are about to, we're about to hit an hour out from where we, well, an hour, we're going to take, sorry, one more hour, and we're going to InstaPot the comparable ones. So I've got 2 packs of ribs here I'm going to InstaPot with some water and some barbecue sauce. And I've got 3 packs here that have been sous videing all day, and they'll hit 24 hours in about an hour when these InstaPot ones are done. And at that point, we'll put them both in the smoker for 2 hours, and then we'll come back and blast them with the sauce and the flamethrower and compare them. So I'm going to put just a little bit of sweet baby rays in here because I always like that with my ribs. That may give the InstaPot ones a slight advantage because, I don't know, because we don't get to steam or cook the other ones with something flavored in it. But all of these ribs are done the same. They were frozen. They were sliced up from Costco. They were rubbed down with specific rubs that I use and my own personal version of that, and frozen. And so they're all going from frozen, and have that the same for all of them. All right, we've got our ribs in the pressure cooker. We're gonna get this sucker locked down. Oh, pretend like I know how to do it. There we go. Pressure cook it, kick it up to about 45 minutes. We don't want them falling off the bone. We want a little bit of tug on the meat to keep it all together. But with them being frozen, I'm gonna give it 45, and that should keep us about right there. It's about first 5 minutes, that's going to be building up pressure. So it should be about right. They should be cooked, and then we'll smoke them both for 2 hours and come back and talk to you. So one more bit of commentary while they're cooking here. My assumption on the output is that the sous vide ribs will still taste better because they've cooked so long and they cook at such a stable rate. Usually you cook ribs or pork up to 145 and doing 140, and I've been doing it for 24 hours. Anything above 135, you've killed all the pathogens and things like that. Anyway, anything sustained at that temperature. But I'm doing 140, not 145, because I am going to be putting them in the smoker, and the smoker is going to be at 2 hours at around 180 to 200 anyway, and that's going to increase the temperature for a sustainable period even more. So I wasn't too worried about going 145 there. Other notable differences in the methods that may or may not affect the flavors and the outcomes is that the sous vide style, as you may know, you're dealing with meat which is vacuum packed, and so it is cooking in its own rubs and juices while it's cooking, whereas the InstaPot, it is not in the plastic or the shrink wrap. We cut that out, and so it's just cooking in the steam. But in our case, we put some barbecue sauce in the water so that flavor would steam into it. So that may or may not make a difference. Again, cooking it and keeping the stuff in the package versus it maybe running off or dripping, but steaming back into it. Should be interesting to see what the outcome is there. All right, we are at time. Our pressure cooking's done. We're gonna release all the steam out of this sucker. And I've already taken the lid off of our sous vide ribs. I'll let these, so what we're going to do is I'm going to take the bags out of here. I'm one-handed while I'm holding the phone here and recording, so I'm going to cut those bags off and place everything here on this tray here, and we can look at the difference in the consistency and look just straight out of the gate before we smoke them. All right, we're out here at our Green Mountain Grill smoker, and we're gonna put these suckers in. Woo, smoky. And smoke them for a couple hours at 180. Come check on them in the middle just to make sure we're holding temperature properly and everything's the same between them all, but essentially it's all about the smoke at this point. So hard to do this one-handed. We're going to keep them all separated, of course, so that our experiment doesn't get messed up. And we are all set and ready to go. All right, the time has come. The smoking's done, and the three on the left that are darker are from the sous vide. They still have stayed darker, which is a really interesting change. They've not changed at all. And ones on the right out of the InstaPot are obviously lighter still. And we're just gonna do our finishing touches, which is the same for all of them. We're gonna put some barbecue sauce on these, and we're gonna baste it around with a silicone brush. Just get them all coated. And we're gonna do 2 layers of this, so that no difference depending on whether it was InstaPot or not. The first layer we will torch a little bit stronger to get a little bit of that blackness and barbecue feel to it. Need some more for this one. And then the second layer we'll put on just to lightly torch it and glaze it. All right. Some blackness on this layer, just like if we had flipped it and barbecued it in the barbecuer. Now that those are all torched, we're going to just sauce them one more time for a quick glaze. It's a little hard to do one-handed, but it's real simple. Just going to brush it on there, and then we're going to torch it one more time really quick, not to get the blackness, because we already got that underneath for flavor. This will be just to, again, gel that up. It gels really fast because this thing is so hot. See that bubbling on there? Need to use it super high on this awesome gun. All right, so we've got them in the house. There's so many things to learn from this experiment that I'm anxious to find out. It's gonna be exciting. So on the front here, these 2 are the pressure cooked ones. The 3 in the back are the sous vide ones. And the first thing I wanted to see if there's any difference in the absorption of smoke or smoke ring. So for example, if I cut this open, which these pressure cooked ones just slice right open, fall apart really well. I do see some pink in here. The meat is kind of whitish in general. So we'll have to see how the flavor goes. I mean, I won't know if there's a difference in the flavor with smokiness, but I was just trying to look for a smoke ring of some sort. There's just a little bit that got in there. And I don't know, again, if the pressure cooking makes a difference on that or not. Let's kind of look at the same thing for one of these sous vide ones. Now the sous vide one seems to be cutting a little more, what I would call it stiff, meaning that it's going to have a nice bite to it, whereas the other one the knife just kind of fell through it. Same thing, a little bit of smoke, a little pink, but the meat is definitely a little stiffer on this one. And just to see on a thicker piece of meat if it makes any difference at all, should be pretty much the same. But you see down here on this end piece, I must be hitting a bone here. Here we go. That's a curvy bone. All right. Ooh, baby backs are so thick. Now that's got some smoke in it there. But the meat is definitely more of a pull off the bone with your teeth, tug, which is what a lot of people prefer. This one is steamed, obviously, in the pressure cooker, and it's a little more soft and falling apart. So that's the difference we're seeing right off the bat. Next thing, of course, is an awesome taste test. So we are gonna take it over to here. I cut them right on the tray. Not sure why I got the cutting board out. Okay, on the left, I've got my pressure cooker. On the right, I've got my sous vide. This is the fun part. All right, sous vide first. It was 24 hours of sous vide. It's and then of course the smoking calms it down, stiffens it up a little bit. That's so good. Of course the sauces and the rubs and all that make it really flavorful. Super moist. The perfect chewy tug. It's just really good. Sous vide makes it really, really good. It doesn't overdo it. I suppose you could go 48 hours or something. I don't know if that would make a difference, but 24 is a lot. Oh, yeah, you gotta stare at that sauce on my face. That's a lot of fun. All right, paper towel time. So that's the sous vide one. It's a slight bit of smoke. I did pull them out about 15 minutes earlier. I didn't go 2 hours. I went 1 hour and 45. So I don't know if that made a difference or not, but that was really good. Okay, on to the grand finale here, I guess, the pressure cooked version. Let's see how they hold up. They are right off the bone. Barely have to touch it. Super good. Oh my gosh. If you prefer a fall off the bone or slightly fall off the bone over a tug, these are amazing. Oh my gosh. Wow. Wow. So, I got a mouthful every time I touch it. It just falls off so easy. Sorry, you have to watch me eat all that. But what that means is you may not have to put the time into ribs that you think you do. At the end of the day, if you go do the 3-2-1 method, that's typically 3 hours of smoking and 2 hours in foil with some juices and sauce so it will steam it, and then 1 hour back, smoking or grilling to stiffen it up again. That's like 6 hours of work plus going back and forth between all these steps to get a pretty moist and nicely smoked rib. That's a lot of time. If you do the sous vide method, it cooks them really well. I'm not gonna lie. I cooked it really well, but I dropped in for a 12 or a 24-hour period, and they're just fine. They're great. But they all those methods simply get to a point where it's cooked. Your spices and how you rub it, that's going to be the same no matter what. So all that does is change the flavor. So that's the same for all of them. Your saucing, torching, grilling, whatever you're going to do at the end to get crisp, that's all going to be the same no matter what. So all that matters is cooking time in the middle. How do you get to that cooked state, and how long do you want to smoke it? That's the only difference here, other than how stiff do you want your ribs to be. That I'm going to be honest, that pressure cooker method is perfect. There's nothing wrong with the way those are biting, the way they're falling off the bone. They're super moist. They're holding to the bone. They're not falling apart like all mushy. They're just perfect, and it's just amazing. So the smoking that happened after that, that's all the same. I get the same amount of smoke depending on how long I want to smoke it. So 45 minutes in the pressure cooker, 2 hours smoking, and then do what you're going to do to sauce it, and you're done. So that's 3 hours. That's way, way quicker than any other method we've had so far. So I would say frozen or fresh, the pressure cooker method is worth it, does save you time, and doesn't change anything about the ribs. In fact, it may even make it better. So I will be changing to pressure cooking for the cooking of my ribs rather than sous vide, which I love sous vide for steaks and other things, but for ribs, it did not make a difference. They're awesome with pressure cooking. And that's my conclusion. Couple more thoughts at the end, actually, I want to add on to this. I was just thinking about is one, I did my ribs from frozen. So if you were to grab them fresh, chop them up, rub them, and throw them in the pressure cooker, you'd probably be able to do it faster. I did it 45 minutes frozen. I mean, you'd probably be able to get your ribs done in 30 minutes instead of 45 in the pressure cooker. So that's even more savings. Another thing to think about is that pressure cooking infused the moisture so deep into the ribs that not only do they stay moist through the whole smoking process, but the process typically that people go with 3, 2, 1 and other methods in barbecues and whatever in ovens, they're trying to constantly keep their ribs from drying out. And so they use squirt bottles full of vinegar or apple juice. I had it standing by ready to go. I didn't use it. Things to keep it moist all the time. So there's more supplies, more hassle. You have to babysit it to go out there and squirt it every once in a while. All of that goes away because the ribs stayed so moist to start with. It wasn't even an issue. And lastly, because I didn't use my smoker as the cooking method, I saved a whole lot of pellets. So my smoker used 2 hours worth of pellets instead of 4 hours worth of pellets. So all that adds up to more convenience, less stuff, less hassle. I didn't babysit it for half the day. I just dropped them in the pot, dropped them on the smoker, and torched them, and I was done. So all that adds up to a much better experience for still phenomenal ribs. And I guess even if you felt like the squirt bottle stuff and all that, keeping it moist also helped you add flavor to it, with the pot method, the pressure cooker method, you can still do exactly the same thing by putting those flavors into the moisture in the pot. So like I did at the very beginning of this video, I added a little barbecue sauce to the water. You could add your Jack Daniels or apple juice, whatever you want, as part of the steaming, and you would get that same effect and get those flavors into your meat without having to babysit and squirt bottle it. So all around, better method.